welcome to our Inside Texas live show. Happy Father's Day to all our Longhorn dads out there. And Evan, appreciate you waking up and then, getting out of bed, coming out here, hanging
Waking
with
up by
me
1
again.
p.m.
Nah, I'm always trying to get Evan out of bed on Sundays. I'm just messing with him, man. Evan's staying busy, working hard, done a great job. Obviously covering the baseball team early in the week and now covering recruiting here for Inside Texas. And with that being said, make sure that you're going over to Inside Texas right now. Got a lot of articles going up about a lot of different topics, guys. 50% off on the Ultimate Fan Bundle, still running that summer sale. So come join IT on Three Rivals and for a really, really good price. Again, talking a lot of recruiting over there right now. A lot of fun stuff. Had articles from Justin Wells yesterday on Inside Texas. It was great. You had Eric dropping a very late night report, maybe early morning report. Still nighttime for me, so I'm gonna call it late night. So if you haven't checked those out, make sure you're checking those out. Eric's big report on a couple of uncommitted visitors on the 40 acres this weekend. But let's start with the big fish who is committed. Happy Father's Day, Vic. Appreciate you being here as always, my man, Freshwater Cajun. A big fish who is committed. He is in this class. He's a big enough fish where everybody else in the world is still out there casting their lines, if you will. Let's talk about Easton Royal a little bit. What have we heard from his visit and how he enjoyed his time over the last couple of days, Evan?
Yeah, he says that his commitment's firm, which is a really good thing to hear. It seemed like what the big pitch from Sark and his staff. And remember, with these really, really, keep saying big fish, but these top tier recruits, top 40 to 5-star guys, it's a whole group effort. It's not just Chris Jackson saying to him what he thinks and Sark saying to him what he thinks. It's Jeff Banks is a part of this process. All the guys behind the scenes, Ben Wells, who you might not have known until he started posting pictures of Longhorn flag gifts and getting recruits off of it. So it seems like Royale comes out of it in a good spot. I don't know if he came out of it any, more likely to commit next, or excuse me, he's already committed, but stay hold and announce that he's shutting down his recruitment next week. But it seems like Texas has done a good job of pitching to him that long-term stability of what it means to be a Texas Longhorn. That's something that really got Cam Coleman, and you can hear what he's talking about Austin and just some of the opportunities he's gotten. That a big selling point for Texas is that you're going to be a Texas Longhorn and an Austinite for the next 50 years of your life. And that's what you like to hear when they're pitching to these really high tier guys who, they're going to have to pay Easton Royale a lot of money, but that money may be less than what LSU's Lane Kiffin is offering him. So what are the other things that can both be monetarily good for you, but also just personally a good thing for you to have in your recruitment and in your college career? So, Royale's a guy who's going to be 3 and out and go into the league because of how talented he is. But there's more than just, where you're going to be for 3 years and how those 3 years matter for you. And I think that's what Texas really pushes to these top tier recruits. And that's what you like to hear. So he's just such a mature guy, Cord. Like you hear it when, I don't know if you've seen the interview on Twitter that's been posted from him doing the airport visit, but he just knows what he's talking about. He's a really calm kid. He seems very, very good on his shoulders. I'm not concerned about him, making any rash decisions soon about what he wants to do with college football. But I also don't think Texas feels like they've, finished the job here. This is going to take some time. This is, the number one receiver for a reason.
And with that being said, man, again, he is certainly being courted by many suitors out there, and for good reason. He's a hell of a talent. Pulling kids out of the boot, man, it's never easy. And how much more difficult has it become in this particular recruitment, in your opinion, maybe with the coaching change, the regime change at LSU, than bringing in Lane Kiffin? Obviously, Easton was already a part of this class when that's all, when that's all transpiring. How much more difficult is LSU making this thing?
Well, it just meant that they had to work from behind, which at the end of the day, you're not all that behind with that Louisiana kids if you are LSU. So, Kiffin's just a tremendous recruiter. The one thing that Sark does have over him is that he doesn't quite have the set to the NFL pedigree recently. And that's not to say that Sark's created any superstars in the NFL, but Golden, Mitchell, Worthy by themselves is pretty good selling pitch. And then Royal could see what, next year it's going to be Cam Coleman and maybe even Ryan Wingo. So that's where it becomes hard for Kiffin, that like, what's his pitch outside of, I also have a good offense and it's close to home, right? Like, because no matter what with Kiffin and Sark, you're going to be pitched this excellent offense. He'd be happy to play for either of them. But what is more than that? Is there, maybe a financial aspect that's really pushing their way, or is there some kind of relationship that he's built that really matters? As of right now, I do think Texas's, wide receiver coach relationship, head coach relationship is slightly above LSU's. And that's what's giving Texas that edge, why he's still committed and has the Longhorns, helping them with recruits that are coming in, helping talk to Monsoon Sales, who we'll get to in a second. Like that's why he's still a Longhorn. But this is not, I'm not going to say he's going to flip or anything, but this is not over. This is not it for him. And as someone is putting into the chat saying, like, LSU themselves are known for a lot of really high tier wide receivers, but that was Orgeron. Some of it was Brian Kelly. So it depends on what you pitch to him. And there's a ton of different pitches to a guy like this. It's like playing CFB 27 recruiting right here. But either way, that's why Texas is still ahead, why they got this last official visit, and why they're doing so well in general with this recruitment of, it just hasn't seemed like they've lost a lot of ground at all in all of this process as Kiffin has started building up.
As well said, man. Again, you see I feel like you see some panic, on the message boards and social media platforms in regards to that recruitment and him taking his visits and him posting pictures. And hey, man, a lot of people already consider him to be out of the class, which is just wild to me. You know what I mean? Like it's a new era. Texas has done a really, really good job of holding on to those guys, that they absolutely kind of feel like they have to have in their classes. Pretty funny comment here, but LSU has a lot of great NFL receivers from 2 coaches ago. How can we compete with that? Buildings develop players after all. That's pretty funny, Justin. You got I like some wits on a Sunday afternoon. So difficult to get the number 1 player out of Louisiana unless it's Saban. Yeah, again, that's like the biggest concern. There's I'm not gonna say pressure on those guys in state to go to LSU, but there are a lot of people pointing them in that direction, which is, credit to what Evan said. If you're LSU and it's a Louisiana kid, you're never really working from too far behind. Appreciate you being here, Sugar Puppy, again, man. That is awesome. I'm glad you got to check out the Netherlands game. If I had to go follow a crowd around, I'm pretty sure that's who I'd be following around for like one, just one World Cup experience, man. So, yeah, there you go. I mean, do your thing. Let us know. We're hopefully this works out in the end. Again, committed, not committed. At the end of the day, we just want to put the name on the paper. And I feel like Texas is, like Evan said, is not really lost ground in that regard. You know what I mean? It's not like he canceled the visit. It's not like he's there, not involved, seems like things went really well over the weekend. And again, as we kind of get off these post-visit highs, and get further down the road, I feel like you do a little bit better job of assessing, kind of how everything went over the weekend. But, with Easton Royal and, obviously we're talking about him being recruited by plenty of other very, very good coaches as far as recruiting goes. Is that, why Texas has kind of decided to, hey, let's really go after Monsoon Sales here? Or is there potential that both of these young men are in the Class 7? How's talk to us about his visit? Because it seems, if you've read Inside Texas this morning, it seems like things are going pretty well there.
Yeah, so some good position was what Eric Naleen said about where they are at, which is all you can ask for. I mean, he's not going to Sales again. These top tier guys, it just keeps going and going and going. And what Eric's made the point of in the past and in his writing is that there's no downside of creating a good relationship with a good player. At the very least, what Sales is going to be able to say is either, one, best case scenario, they get both these guys in the class. It's like, well, you've done a great job there. You got number 1 and number 2. 2, he goes somewhere else, and it's fine. That's not the end of the world. 3, Royale goes somewhere else, which would really hurt Texas. But then you have a guy to fall back on. You can really push your chips in for Sales. And then 4, what if he hits the portal eventually? What if he did go to Indiana, but something happened, and now he's available, and Texas can say, yeah, we loved this guy a year or 2 ago, and he loved us. We came in second place. Now we have an advantage when he's in the portal process. So that's why they're doing this. They're not wasting their time or their resources. They would like him in this class. And I think they feel like they are in as good a position as anyone to go get him. He's got that kind of weird way connections with him. He lives in Indiana right now, but he's from Alabama originally. So, any kid from in Indiana with how the Hoosiers have been doing recently, that's a guy that they're going to try to get if they feel the talent's there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where he ends up. I mean, Alabama's going to make a tough push as well, but I do think that both these guys could play in the same class and be a part of the class together. And, we've seen Royale is a recruiter for Texas right now. He was talking to Sales throughout these visits, and they were together a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way the pattern they take and the choice they make, because as Eric's pointed out in his article today, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit, Texas doesn't need to rebuild in 2027, but if you lose 12 to 13 guys in the NFL that include Arch Manning and Colin Simmons and Trevor Gooseby, it's just going to be hard to, in one offseason, build a team at that same level that you would have been in 2028 as it was in 2026. But if you wait that year and stack a recruiting class that's really, really high level, like the one we're talking about potentially having with Sales and Royal, maybe you don't get a wide receiver in the portal in the 2027 class, but You just go out there with a young group that next year, maybe they go crazy and you don't feel like you miss a step. Or worst case, it's 2028 and you've got Jermaine Bishop, Easton Royale, Monsoon Sales, insert whoever else you want, Dalen McCutcheon, Kalik Lockett, like Chris Stewart, Cohen Brown. You could do that and have no problem, maybe just not quite being the best team in the country in 2027. And so that's where the sales things would come in. Like if they were to spend that kind of money to get him into the class, they would then probably have to take a smaller step back in 2027 portal at wide receiver, but still have kind of the talent composite you need for a national champion.
And the only thing I'll ask, is that the preferred, route for you, Evan, considering you could potentially have a new quarterback as well. And so you're starting over with, a first year starter at quarterback within a lot of youth at wide receiver. I mean, to me, again, like you're not always going to just be loaded up with experience at every single position. And again, you have the portal, and if you needed it, you could fill in holes. If you needed experience, you could add experience, etc. I like it, man. Just like, what I mean? Like, again, like a lot of people act like, this is the last year of Texas football. If Texas and Sark don't win it all, everybody's moving on. The program's folding. If they do win it all, it kind of feels like mission accomplished. Like we're not going to have to wake up again and start all over. There are going to be further days beyond Arch Manning, beyond the 2026 Steve Sarkisian, the Texas Longhorns. And I expect him to be a part of it, and can't rule out that Arch will be a part of it. So still a long way to go with all that, man. But no, I like that. I like that piece. I like you touching on that. Not to get you to speculate too much, Evan, but I'm going to give you the ad break to do so. When we come back, we're going to talk about who we think kind of hops in this class next. Say what we can say, but let's hear a word from Mr. Andre the Lawyer. Big shout out to Dre for sponsoring today's show, and we'll be right back.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results: Andre the Lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the Lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
All right, Evan, before we get to some of the other visitors that are on class, because everybody wants to know who's next. I feel like that's always a hot topic. It's not, hey, he's in the class. Let's not talk about that. The guy that committed 12 hours ago or 36 hours ago. They want to know who's next. Anything that you can say or anything off, that you want to take a guess here?
I mean, I will say that there's two cornerbacks that are committing this week. I believe the 25th and 26th, and Dylan McGee and Montre Jackson, who I think Texas feels like they are in the position to win those recruitments. And they're not, and McGee especially, I think is in the 3 starts here, and Montre Jackson's a good cornerback in state, but maybe not John Meredith tier of player. Either way, Texas, because they've made such a sweeping range of options at the cornerback position, like they've looked at 5 guys who they all felt like they were in first or second with, such as Greedy James being a cornerback in this class. I think they're going to take 4 if they can, and that includes McGee and Jackson, especially with Blaylock choosing Oklahoma following his brother. So we're looking at maybe the cornerback class being wrapped up by June 26th. Obviously, you have to play some defense with guys like Meredith and James, and eventually maybe Jackson. But at least you have the 4 that you want in signing by January and being on campus in January, right there and done in June, which would be huge. I do think Josh should put it in there. Texas is probably going to pursue pretty hard these next few weeks some of the positions that are lacking. So that's, to me, interior O-line, D-line, linebacker, safety are probably the thinnest positions right now. So interior O-line, Lucas Roa seems to be a guy that they're starting to finally heat up on. I know Eric's been a big fan of him for a while. So I'd look out for Roa, what his timeline looks like and where Texas stands there. Junior Tuiopo, I believe is how you pronounce his name, a safety out of Alabama. Texas has made up a lot of ground. I believe there's an RPM for him right now. And then I'm not sure who it would be yet, but Texas has had a lot of options start to kind of return for D-line, and who that might be in particular and who's next, I'm not sure. But they want 3 to 4 in this class, and they've only got the one true interior guy in Kasai Curry. So that's what I would look out for. I'd look out for those interior positions as well as cornerback before, those big-time names, Landon Williams, Callis, Sales, Kamara coming in. Like I would look for some maybe underrated names that the average fan doesn't know as well, but the people who are really into recruiting, like these would be nice guys to get.
I'm big on Roa too, man. I think there's a reason boss fan Eric is a big fan of Lucas Roa. He got some nasty. You got a nasty streak. I think that's a guy that long term could be a hell of a player for Texas. And that's not me. No slight on on Kamara either. I think he's another guy obviously Texas wants. And honestly, anybody that comes out of that particular high school in East Texas is a take for me. Not anybody, but anybody of his size and stature is a take for me. I'll say that. You did mention one big name. The other big name that Eric kind of had in his early article, this morning, Landon Williams College being on campus this morning, talking about one of the top backs in the country. How's Jabbar Jalouk doing with Landon?
Yeah, really well, it seems. I mean, that's one where we were talking about how Kiffin needed to make up ground with Easton. Like, this is one where Texas was a little bit behind because they made that change at running back coach. And he's done a great job to reel Landon Williams Callis back in and truly feel like this is Texas's guy, not to lose, but Texas is in on this guy. They have a real chance to make a two-man running back class, and kind of back to the 2027 discussion we were talking about. Like, maybe you don't take a portal running back if you're getting both Roberts and LWC in your class. But at that point, like, do you really care? Like, how talented would that be? Because we've already talked about how Roberts would be a really good guy to bring in. He's got that every down kind of ability, just, refining to the college game, maybe not the best athlete, but LWC has had some of the most unreal stats you've ever seen in Texas high school football. I mean, just record-breaking numbers. I believe he's now the leading rusher all time, or somewhere in the top 2 to 3. So that's the kind of player that, if you can get him to sign the dotted ink like Sales, you're not going to say no. You would love to have that happen. And if it makes your class a little over budget for what you expected and you have to take out a portal, that's okay. Because this guy is just an unreal type of agility from him. And also just the counting stats and the numbers and what you can sell him on. The reason that he might want to go into a 2 running back class, which I've been saying for a while, I didn't want a 2 running back class. This is probably the only way you can convince me on it, Cord, is he's taken so many touches. Like, he's already very, very used in high school that it might be nice for that kind of guy to come in and A, not have to play freshman year, and B, split some carries a little bit with Roberts and Derek Cooper, who's a class above him, in his first year or 2 in college before he really explodes as like a number 1. And that's what NFL teams want. Like, they don't want to see that wear and tear. There's not a lot of Derrick Henrys in the world who can do that high school to college to NFL starting, 4 years at a time and not be done by, his 6th year in the league. So that's the pitch for them. He's a really, really good player. I think Texas feels good about this. I believe A&M's the other team to watch here. They're pretty heavily into him, and that's in-state kid. But Jabbar Jalouk's done a great job. He's been a great hire.
He has been, man, and again, a lot of energy. I think we need a little bit more energy, just not on the sideline, but just inside the in the facilities as well. I really like kind of what Jabbar brings, and obviously it's paying dividends so far in the recruiting landscape as well. And yeah, Justin, you and Evan have kind of been like a little bit in sync here on this show. But yeah, I mean that I immediately go back to Jonathan Gray and talk about his usage at Toledo and how much he was toting the rock, and obviously he saw injury issues at Texas, and there we go, Vic, me and you. So we got Evan and Justin and Cord and Vic on the same page here, but y'all touched it, y'all nailed it. The average NFL running back shelf life is not very long. You know what I mean? So I do think it would be very, very smart of that young man, put himself in a two running back class. And then again, maybe it's not that he's not able to play early in his tenure wherever he ends up, but it's not going to be in an every down type of role. I do think, as he goes on, that just having a little bit of a Batman to his Robin or Robin to his Batman, is not a bad thing whatsoever. So good comments on that. It's going to happen fast. It always does. Everybody's all worried. You got Texas Tech and Cactus people celebrating in April about recruiting rankings. And then you've got Texas here late summer. That's always late June, early July, sometimes later July, and all the dominoes start to fall. And it kind of feels like we're getting close to like a lot of dominoes falling quickly for Texas. A lot of really, really positive momentum going on. But to be fair, and Austin, I'm not going to ignore your comment up here. A&M's, they're rolling right now. They're doing a really, really good job with this class. But how come, Evan, and I agree, you're not seeing a lot of head-to-head collisions as far as the way you once did. It's not your Charlie Strong versus, Kevin Sumlin days or Mac versus Fran and RC. It's not like that anymore. Is it because these schools are recruiting more on a national scale, Evan, or what do you think the reason it could be?
Yeah, I think part of that's part of it because, I'm pulling up A&M's class right now, and their top 3 guys and 5 of their top 6 are not from the state of Texas. And then you look at their in-state guys, Kennedy Brown, Texas had been talked about with him, but they felt different about his valuation than A&M did. So, if they're going to treat him like a 5-star the way Texas isn't, then of course he's going to go to A&M. And then safety position was one that I thought would end up having some clash, and maybe Jaquan Snell, is going to have a late visit to Texas in the year, and maybe they go pursue hard for it. But that's not someone that they really battled for. John Meredith is the closest thing that we've seen, but either way, the tea leaves were there for Texas in the last kind of 4 or 5 days that he was going to be going to the Longhorns. So you're right. Like, I wonder if there's a flip battle that comes later in the year, if there's somebody that is committed to one of these teams that is looking into the other side. But no, it's great to point that out because A&M's going after kind of that Southeast and even some California kids, and we know Texas has gone around the country. But what really is the reason for this, I think, is that Texas Tech is really throwing a lot of money at these good in-state players and saying, like, hey, what's the difference between us and these schools, especially when we're going to pay you better and we're pursuing you early, and we're saying we prioritize you over any sort of out-of-state commitment. So, you've seen kind of the Dave Campbell's graphic going around on Twitter where I think they have like 8 of the top 12 commits with Meredith even involved. And that's including Snell for A&M. And I believe one of their Matthews Kennedy Brown. But that's what Tech's doing is they're vulturing a lot of the non-priority Texas players. And so those guys who would have been battling between A&M and Texas and maybe Oklahoma just aren't there anymore. Yeah, like they're going into Florida and Georgia. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see if, LWC ends up being a big battle near the end for those two teams. I don't believe there is in on Kamara, but I think it's more an Oregon thing. But we'll see if that comes up as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. That the tidbit, again, I do think both are going way more national. But Tech, man, we're coming in and going a little bit above market for a lot of these in-state guys and some out-of-state guys as well. Yeah, I mean, is it a little bit of like, hey, Tech might have caught Sark in Texas sleeping? Is it potential of like, hey, Elko and his group, they know that Sark wants to kind of do our summer thing. We want to wait and see exactly, make sure that we're finding the proper fits on this class. Obviously, Texas is very selective on who is in the class and when they are added to the class. Of course, there are outliers. There's a guy that wants to be a part of it. You're gonna take it immediately. You're gonna post it when he wants you to post it. But is there potential that like people know what Texas, how they kind of strategize with their recruiting and how the timeline kind of works, and so they're trying to get ahead of Texas in that regard, maybe offering a little bit more above market, maybe what they think Texas might offer, and saying, hey, we'll take you right now, and like you said, we're paying you a little bit more.
Yeah, I think you're seeing that maybe in the D-line and linebacker recruiting for the Longhorns, where Tech's already got a really good D-line class, none more notable than Jalen Brewster, the number 1 overall recruit, who Texas would like. They had him on campus, that they're not ignoring him as a player in Texas, but he's been committed to Texas Tech since, November or October of 2025. So they got him early, and I'm not sure if he was the number 1 guy back then, but he was definitely a highly rated recruit, but not Texas wasn't going to go all in on him that early on. And so that's a good piece of business from them if they can keep him through, a full year committed, probably paying him well. But either way, who cares? It's the number 1 guy. You got to pay him well. So that's what they've been doing well. And you've seen that they have 3 or 4 good D-line commits, while Texas is a little bit behind there. And maybe Kadrian Redmond from DeSoto is a guy that Texas goes after as well, who's committed to Tech. But Texas would like Jaden Nelson, the linebacker, but he is firmly in a Texas Tech commitment. They've gotten him on campus, but that's what they've done well. Those front 7 guys, they've gotten in early. I'm just not sure that Texas feels that bad. They liked Kavian Bryant, who was the quarterback, who I think if they had to take like a really high level guy, it would have been Bryant in this class. But they needed to go a little more budget in 2027 quarterback recruiting. So I don't think they really care about that. They're looking at other running backs and wide receivers than Baker and Caldwell. So it's really only in the front 7 I think that's had an impact.
Well said, though. Thanks for touching on that. Again, I feel like the long game that Texas plays, like even just because a kid commits, you know what I mean? I don't feel like Texas and Sark are like panicking or anything like that. You know what I mean? I think they trust themselves and their evaluations and then how they handle NIL and just the entire process. Again, a lot of positive returns and dividends from these guys recruiting. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's kind of like, it feels like, Mac used to just try to have the whole like 90% of the recruiting class wrapped up by mid-spring, and now you start to see that from a lot of other schools as well. For me, like, I just think it's like trying to get ahead of everybody else. Some schools don't want to take your commitment. Alabama would carpet bomb, the country with offers under Nick Saban, and then they would tell 90% of the kids like, hey, we can't take you right now. Like, we want to take you, but like, let's get down the line a little bit. Let's see how it all plays out. Yeah. Any comments on that, Evan, about, the growing trend of a lot of these? It's not everybody, but a lot of schools are really, really getting, 15, 20 guys in the class by June. And that's not always the case.
Well, I think because how NIL kind of not blindsided, but struck so quickly in the maybe 2 or 3 years before this, that teams were on the back foot of how the money process works. But now that they're able to kind of reset and make this, you're still coming to our school. We're still the premium package here is coming to LSU and Ohio State and Texas and Alabama. That sometimes in these contracts or however they're negotiating with these players, it's like we're going to get this done now. If you sign right now, we're not going through stuff. It's not a public thing, but we're not going through this November, October process. I want to make sure that you're in this class right now, and so that's why I think a lot of those guys who are really good, but maybe not the very very best are that's why they're still maybe taking their time. But some of those good but not super elite, 40 to 200, those guys are taking or excuse me, the opposite of taking their time. They're taking this commitment very seriously and just kind of sticking through it. And I think there's going to be less flip near the end of the year and a lot more, and it's still going to happen, but a lot more just like good players eventually needing to make a final decision as opposed to a lot of these guys in that 400 to 250 4-star range. It's just like, I'm locked in here. I have a role. There's no reason to mess that up and mess up what a pretty good NIL package probably is for my team. And I say this, I need to take a little 2-minute break to tweet about a baseball commit right here, as Joshy pointed out. Sawyer and Solitaria, I believe his name is, big power guy.
Solitaria, good job.
So I'm gonna throw some tweets out there while you yap a little bit, Cord.
Oh, there you go. You got Solitaria in the class, power guy from Kent State. That Texas isn't working, as this season was wrapping up, on the portal. It's not like, I saw a lot of fans yesterday, like, are we going to get anybody in the portal? We're just now starting to portal recruit. Like, we're way behind the 8 ball. They clearly have, they've had their eye on a few guys. This is a really big get. It's going to be a lot of power. It's going to be a guy that's got great gap power. It's going to go opposite field. Evan, you got any other comments on it? Because again, I'm going to have to do a little bit more homework. I've seen about 2 things on him, about 2 swings. But man, both swings he barreled the ball up really well.
He is giant. I think he's like 6'4", 215.
Yeah.
I want to say he's a true sophomore, maybe a redshirt sophomore, righty bat. So not a you are the breaking news. Righty bat. So it's not maybe not the last outfield lefty that I think that they're going to look for, but this is like, if this is going to be your role player addition in the outfield, and then maybe he is the second best they get, but like, this dude has a really, really high ceiling when it comes to his like exit velocity, like going to hit the ball really, really hard. The problem with some of these guys that you see at 6'4", 215 is like, is there going to be strikeout problems? Are you going to have to worry about that going forward? And his strikeout numbers weren't like bad. Like, it wasn't like he was striking out 1-to-1 with walks, but it was like, 60K to 40 walk, which, for a 6'4" dude, yeah, that's what you expect. So that's a really good ad. It's someone we've been hearing about, but I didn't get confirmation about him getting a commit soon, like I did with Ian Armstrong. So like that was one I was hoping they'd get and stick him in right field and just let him throw gun dudes out for the whole season. But this is it's a really needed one. They needed one more outfielder, and then I think they might go up to a star left in the outfield. Angel Laya has already been connected to them with A&M, LSU, and Georgia. And so, like I said to people and this got some traction on Twitter, so I'm going to rant a little bit for a second. I took most of the afternoon off, so I wasn't talking to a lot of people. But, like, I didn't say that Texas is poor. And I think most people don't really think that. It's just that they don't have FU money in some of the spots where they're overpaying for dudes like, the top 3 teams in the SEC do. And that doesn't mean they can't get 3 now top 60 commits and, a really good catcher. So, they're going to be fine in the portal. They're doing well. This Kane thing is not going to mess up everything. They'll be fine. It's just that, people get a little pissy sometimes. So it's all right. But this is a great pickup. It's a great pickup. It really is.
Yeah, no, it's a good bat. And again, it's a huge arm out there in the outfield. You're not going to ask your right fielder he's in right field for a reason. But he can't. My favorite thing in baseball is, man, watching a right fielder, field a ball. Maybe it's in the gap. Maybe it's just a ball right at him, and then just gunning somebody out, trying to go from first to third. He's got that arm to do that. He's got a huge arm, and again, he's got good power. The strikeouts, I think you made every single Texas fan out there, every Longhorn baseball fan in the world, I think you made them tremble just a little bit, considering how things have gone as of late. But again, no, long way to go. We'll see what he looks like when he gets to burn orange, when he's facing SEC pitching. Evan, I'm going to get you out of here soon. I know you got to get back to bed, okay? But I do have one more topic to bring up. Justin said that the Astros are on, and me personally, I'm a big baseball guy, but I guess I slept through that whole 2019 World Series. So if you have time for it, I'd like to walk through that whole series, just pitch by pitch, so that I can have a proper remembrance of exactly how it all played out. No, I'm kidding. Any Astro fans out there, y'all didn't deserve that, especially not on Father's Day. I do apologize. Both our teams stink. It is what it is. Good luck.
I only brought it up because of the base path thing. All right, that's probably not the first time I brought it up this year, but George Torre's sitting right there.
Tomatoes, even better, man. Even better. Oh man. All my brothers root for the Astros. Dad roots for the Astros. I'm the only Ranger, and so that group chat got a little spicy. It's always spicy when the teams were good. It's always spicy, but that series, I was barking back a little bit because I definitely they got me in 2017. They were on me pretty hard after they took down LA in 7 games. But now, guys, appreciate you being here again. Happy Father's Day to all you Longhorns out there. Hope you go have a great day, spend time with family, friends, or however you choose to do so. Please don't forget to hop on over to Inside Texas so stay up to date on all of these articles regarding recruiting. You got, again, Justin yesterday talking about who might the next Longhorn be. You had Eric giving a really big update on a couple of elite playmakers this morning. Lots to cover, man. And again, baseball as well. Just had a baseball commit drop live on the show. Thank you, Josh E. Manning and Evan Beef. Welcome Sawyer to Schloss's clubhouse. So, hey, make sure you're hopping over there and staying up to date on the new baseball commits as well. Evan, any final words, my man?
I don't think so. I got to go post this article about him. So I gotta get out of here.
Get out of here, Evan. Thanks for being here, guys. All y'all in the comments, man. I really do appreciate it. Justin, good to see you in here, man. Hey, that hurts. All right. I'm not going to lie to you. All right. Let us have our fluke season. I got a fluke Rangers ring and I got a fluke Washington Capitals ring, but I'm you know what? I'm wearing them both. All right. I'm never taking them off. Do appreciate you guys together here. Y'all, again, you made it fun, man. Y'all make the show what it is. So thanks for watching Inside Texas. Throw a like on the video. Have a great Sunday.